Yo, what's going on, E7 fam? I'm Sue, and in this video, I want to talk about the September 25th update content preview that was shown earlier this morning over on Stowe. It's funny because I don't normally do the Wednesday updates all the time because, well, most of the time there's nothing new, nothing interesting to talk about in them. They're things I've covered in other videos. And I was actually talking to somebody on Discord about this last night. They were asking, why do I not do these anymore? And I was kind of ranting, well, you know, there's usually not anything worth talking about in them, or they're things I've covered before. I don't really feel like it's worth it to put out a video of me just repeating what I've said in other videos. Yeah, it'll probably get views, but that's like really low effort in my opinion, so that's why I don't normally do it. And of course, after I give that whole spiel last night on Discord, I wake up this morning, late I might add, to find out that, hey, there's actually stuff to talk about in this patch. So, let's just jump into it, and we'll quickly jump over the most important thing in the patch, which is the Frieren Beyond Journey's End collab, because this is actually the portion of the patch that I have talked about at length. You could find my impressions for Frieren, Fern, and Stark all on the channel. You know, feel free to go seek those videos out if you so choose. But yeah, very, very good collab, very good collab characters, very, very excited about it. But not really a reason for me to make a whole video just to discuss their kits or the importance of Mirrored Lotus Ring, because I've already hammered those points home in another video. What is actually worth talking about here, though, is the side story. And that is largely because of the actual rewards when we get down here to the bottom, right? These rewards are actually good. So it's super, super worth discussing those. I do want to quickly table back up here, though. And point out that we do get a little bit of a glimpse of what's in the side story, right? Key to the Terranor Palace storage says that, hey, it's a collab that's going to take place in Terranor. Mimic Fragment, we're obviously going to find some mimics. It is a Frieren collab after all. And then this Elven Flower, as you can see, it's always worn in Asaria's hair. Leads us to believe that, hey, Asaria is going to be important to the collab story. That's great. She's pretty much our resident elf here in Epic 7. Frieren is an elf. Surely they'll get along. I assume that's why they wanted to have both characters in the collab. My only hope for the collab story is that it is actually good, right? The bar is ReZero. ReZero is as low as we can go. I think it is like the worst collab story ever. It's really, really bad. And Frieren is a series that's known for the quality of its writing, so I'm hoping that the side story is at least somewhat enjoyable. If you are so inclined, tomorrow after maintenance, when I do my Frieren rolls and my Frieren testing, I'll also be going through the side story and voicing it and reading it. So if you're somebody who's normally a story skipper and you've got nothing to do tomorrow afternoon, feel free to drop by, come read the side story with us. Should be a good bit of fun. Now, scrolling down here to the rewards here are actually pretty good in this collab. Like, I'm actually pretty impressed. So we have like a background here that's that silver border thing. I believe this is like an RTA background that you could use for your lobbies. And then you have an actual lobby one for like the in-game lobby in the gold, right? Unless I am wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below. I don't know if this is like a profile card. And this is a lobby animation, but it looks like it is an RTA PvP lobby. And then also a actual lobby that you could use for Frieren for the collab to celebrate the collab, so you kind of have it as your home screen in the game. You'll also be able to acquire some of the new currency for Astral Forge, which we'll talk about a little bit later. That's actually like the main meat and potatoes that I want to talk about in this video. But also, the rest of these rewards are very, very good. The exchange rewards here have Stark's jacket, Himmel's ring, and Frieren's scarf, and they are item level 88. And the achievements have Frieren's suitcase, which is another level 88 item. And this is important because usually collab, like freebies, like, you know, stuff that's like a reference to the show, these equipment pieces, they're usually item 78, which is largely irrelevant. It's useless for anyone outside of like day one players that are just starting with the collab. After like a week, those like item 78 pieces just don't do anything anymore. So it feels kind of like a bummer when you got things like Edward's, like, you know, weapon, like his auto mail, and it just ends up not being useful or whatever have you. Like all these collabs, like Karina had her boots from Espa that were really cool looking with the icon. They're just fodder. They don't really do anything. So being able to have pieces from Frieren that have the unique icons that are most likely going to be actually usable and good for the longevity of your whole account is a nice feeling. So that's very, very good. And then the best thing I would say of all the rewards from this are the emotes. I love the emotes. I love spamming them in chat. I love using them in RTA. And these ones are actually pretty good. The base Frieren one is like very whatever. We'll see what it is once it's animated. Maybe she's got like, you know, she like, you know, squints her eyes and does like the laugh or whatever, like the smug face. That would be pretty cool. The Fern pout, of course, if you watch the show, this is very, very iconic. Fern is like pouting like probably I'd say like 50% of the time she's on screen. Stark is crying like a third of the time he's on screen, so that's pretty fitting for him. And then of course you have the Frieren face. So these are really cool emotes. I definitely want to make sure I pick all of them up. My only concern is I hope that they are available for the longevity of the entire game. And what I mean by that is that the Espa collab had amazing emotes, but they were only available for like a year before Super Creative lost the license to them. And they basically said, sorry, we got to take your Espa emotes away from you. We just don't have the rights to keep them in the game any longer. So my hope is that these emotes are forever because, man, these are some really good ones. At least, again, the second, third, and fourth one, I'll be using these ones quite a bit. And then, of course, you get a pet from this side story, which is a mimic, which very, very fitting. As you guys know, it's most likely 99% chance of a mimic, but there is always the 1% chance that it is the grimoire. So, yeah, very, very fitting for this collab. All right, so then we're also getting Astral Forge in this patch, which is honestly incredible. This is something I've been asking for a very, 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 very long time. So for those of you guys who just started this year with like Origin event and things like that, this is going to feel like a really cool thing, but you're not going to understand why it's like such a requested feature. So around like, I want to say 2022, give or take, there was this event called Artena's crafting event, and I actually did like a new player guide for it here on the channel. It's still up. And what it is essentially, it would come around like maybe 3 times in a year, and you would be able to, during the window that it was up, spend stamina to get points, and you could spend points to essentially craft your perfect piece of starting gear. It wasn't as good as the Zero Defect City crafting event, which is like where you get to pick the piece, the set, the substats, and then you get to max out all the substats so that it's just like this insane like 103 equipment score piece of gear. That's not what this is. This is, hey, I'm going to be playing a lot of Hunt over the next month, and I'm going to accrue points from playing the Hunt, and I'm going to spend those points to get that necklace that I needed for my Red Hua-Yang, or, you know, get the perfect DPS ring for my Arbiter Vildred, right? Like, that's what this is for. You're just going to basically go, hey, I haven't been lucky in finding, like, a speed set ring with attack percentage main that has these exact 4 stubs with good starting rolls. Now, unlike Zero Defect City gear, this stuff can still roll bad. You could get the perfect piece of starting gear, and it could just absolutely flop and low roll. That is still a possibility, but it's better than nothing. Like, having this system be a permanent fixture is better than nothing. So yeah, there's not going to be any more Artena's crafting events because this is essentially the same exact thing. And I think the game is better off for it. New players are better off for it because this is essentially a significantly better gear pity system than like the, whatever they call it, the epic craft, right? Where, you know, oh, I rolled 50 pieces of gear, I got garbage. Let me try to get a random red, you know, epic level sword on, you know, destruction set. Like, stuff like that. This is going to end up being a better way for you to get the piece of gear you specifically need for a character of your choice. So, as you can see here, every 1 stamina you spend, you will get 1 point. And whenever you use a Spectral Core, you'll get 160 points. I don't know if that doubles it up, because buying a Spectral Core is using 160 energy. So, who knows? I don't actually know if that means you double up on it. But my assumption is, basically, it's 1 point per 1 stamina spent, and if you buy a Spectral Core, then that's spending 160 points, so that's why it counts. And then using a flag in Arena gains you another 10 points. As you can see here, you'll be greeted with this screen, where you basically choose your 85 piece of gear, so it's 500 points to choose a set. And then you have 400 points to choose which piece of equipment it is. After that, it's 300 points to choose a main stat if you chose a necklace, ring, or boots. So you're already up to 1,200 points at this point. So that's 1,200 stamina spent. As you can tell, this is a very expensive process. And then you basically spend like 100 points at a time to reroll the substats. So it'll give you 4 random substats. If you don't like them, you spend 100 points, you'll roll again. And then you just keep rolling until you find something you want. Now, you can lock a substat. So for example, if you get like speed as a substat and it's 4 is the value, right? That's the max you can get on these things. You can lock that, but then it might cost like 150 points to reroll just to keep the speed locked. You can lock up to 2 substats, and having the 2 substats will make it like 200 points, give or take or whatever, to actually keep rerolling it. So it's going to cost you like a lot of points, right? Because it's 1,200 just to get the piece rollable. And then from there, it's probably going to be like 3,000 to 5,000, maybe even like 8,000 points to roll the subs that you actually need. So it's like, you have to think of it as like, I'm going to be spending every like 8,000 stamina I spend, I know I'm going to get at least one piece of decent gear. And I know that's like a lot, but that's kind of how Artena's crafting event was. You only got one piece, you spent a whole month trying to make it. So that's how you have to think of this system is, hey, it's just another piece of great gear that I'm going to be getting every 2 to 4 weeks in the game, depending on my level of engagement with Epic 7, how much I am refreshing, how much I am playing the game. So that's how you kind of have to think of this system. Again, it's better than nothing. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I am super happy to have it because honestly, this should have been in the game as a permanent feature in early 2023. The fact that we are getting it in late 2025 is like, hey, you guys are super late to the party with this one. Again, very thankful to have it. If you want some ideas on what you should use, your points on what you should roll, what you should consider, you can check out my old Artena's crafting guide. It's probably a little out of date. I admittedly haven't like looked at it in a while, but hey, one of the major takeaways of that video was to try to hammer home using your perfect subs, right? This perfect piece that you could craft to take something that would otherwise be very obnoxious to craft, like an NIKKE necklace, for example, because that's something you have to go way out of your way to get. It's not something you're just like normally looking for. Those are the kinds of pieces I like taking with this style of event. Next up is going to be some of the hero and artifact balance adjustments. We talked about all of this in another video, but what we did not talk about when we scroll all the way to the end is the new exclusive equipments for Operator Cigarette, and then my girl, Ruel of Light. So Operator Cigarette was probably pretty obvious when it came to the new exclusive equipments that we're going to be getting because her changes were pretty slim, as you could see. So she was getting attacked now before her S2 fires off, as opposed to needing it to get it from the S3. And then the S3 has had its damage increased. They changed the soul burn to increase damage instead of extend attack buff duration. And then the CR that it pushes is 10% more. So it's not much of anything, right? It's a little bit of help, makes the character better, but it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, right? So it was pretty obvious whenever an ML5 doesn't get a lot in the patch that they're pretty much a shoe-in for the next exclusive equipment. So let's go over the Ruel one first, because that was a pleasant surprise. I was not expecting my girl Ruel to get an exclusive equipment. So she's getting 14% health. I would have preferred effect resistance, but hey, not every version of Ruel uses ER. Everyone uses health, so I'll take it, even though this is not going to be like a huge increase, because Ruel has like the second best defense in the game, but her health is pretty low, so getting health percentage is like, it's okay, we'll take it, but it's nothing like super amazing. And then the effect is applies the same effect to the caster when using Light Ascending. So essentially when you use the S3 on Ruel, not only will it heal, cleanse, revive, give invincibility to the target, but also it will use it on Ruel herself, which is pretty good, because oftentimes an opponent will focus down the Ruel and force you to use Light Ascending on herself and not the actual character that you want to use it on. So this makes it a little bit harder to single target her down. She still has the same pronounced weaknesses, right? Even though you could build a ton of ER on her, that means she doesn't have great bulk, so still dies to AoE attacks, like pretty bad versus AoE characters, pretty bad versus like super fast teams that could kind of like cycle through her or like kill her twice very quickly because she's a very slow character. And then, yeah, just in general, injury. There's still a lot of stuff. The stuff that beats her well, I don't think this changes anything. It's more of a quality of life thing. I don't think it, like, makes her significantly better than she was previously. It's definitely an improvement, and I'll be happy to pick this up. But it's not, like, game-changing. I don't think this is just suddenly going to make Ruel anything other than, like, a 4th or 5th pick like she is currently in World Arena. Now, the more interesting one here to talk about is the Extermination Protocol for Operator Cigarette. So this one gives up to 10 speed, and anytime we talk about speed on a exclusive equipment, you kind of have to take notice. So Operator Cigarette, at least the really good ones, can clock in around like 270 or 280, right? And that's if they have to actually build damage. Now, they are giving us an attack buff before Annihilation, and we previously did not have that, right? People would have to play like Wall of Order on Operator Cigarette in order to kill with Annihilation because the character could not guarantee an attack buff and use it to kill a barrier character and do her job. Now, you have that attack boost at the start. And yes, the base damage is slightly decreased, but having that attack buff beforehand is a pretty significant thing. And what made Operator Cigarette good was obviously she could kill a character with Annihilation if they had a barrier, right? But the big thing was the tempo gain where you could literally just slam the S2 into a character, pick up the kill, take an extra turn, and then S3, strip the enemy team, do a decent chunk of damage to them, and throw back their combat race. The tempo gain from them losing a character, losing their buffs, and then also taking a decent chunk of AoE damage was quite a lot. Right, that's what made Operator Cigarette good. Is like hey, if you don't ban this, you don't speed contest this, and I get off my S2, if it kills, it's pretty bad for you, right? So now with this 10 speed, there's a real possibility that you need, like I should let's just say with the buffs, right? With the 10 speed and the buffs in tandem, there's a very real possibility that the character can go 280, 290 speed on Guiding Light and actually do decent damage. Maybe only it's like 2700, 2800 attack instead of like 35, 3600 to kind of do the job. And this exclusive equipment, I've already seen people memeing on it. The extra turn condition triggered by Annihilation, the S2, will be changed to when a critical hit is made. Is actually really good. And I think people are like, oh man, this is kind of bad. I think this is not going to change anything. The thing about what I was just saying is S2 into S3 is kind of what makes OpSig pretty backbreaking because the comps you're going to be playing her into are ones where they have like a protection set user or Fallen Sicilian, and you know it's a prot set user, right? So the problem is like if I picked OpSig into Empyrean Illinab, it would suck ass because I'm never killing in that situation. So I was never getting an extra turn. I was never getting the pushback. I was never getting the tempo and also attack buffing my team. With this change, you actually do. So people can actually play Operator Cigarette as like kind of a bridge or an opener if you want to think about it that way, right? Because previously you would go, here's my opener. It CR pushes my team. OpSig goes, gets the S2, secures a kill, pushes them back. And then from there, the enemy is like 50% CR. My two characters are going next. Their team's pretty roughed up, and I can pick up the W. Now, you should very easily be able to do the same, even if you do not secure a kill, right? Because you're still going to get that big tempo like setup. You're going to get to go S2. Sure, it doesn't kill, but at least it should do a decent chunk of damage. You're going to take an extra turn. You're going to go for the S3. You're going to shove everybody back. You're going to strip all of their buffs, or at least some of them. They're going to be pretty roughed up. And now your whole team has attack buff. And then hopefully whoever's third or fourth behind that, Straze or whoever, just wins the game for you. So I think this is actually a good exclusive equipment. If you could only get one of these. Like me, I only have access to enough currency to get one right now. I am probably going to get the OpSig one first because I think that this one actually does change the character, does make the character meaningfully usable. And again, I know people are clowning on it, but I see the potential for this one. I think this one's actually not that bad at all. And then I guess here at the end, we have the Legendary Inheritance Season Pass thingy. And this is usually like 2,500 Sky Stones and isn't usually, in my opinion, ever really worth it. All right, you get the special reward. Like maybe buying the 900 one, I believe, is usually worth it because you'll get the, you'll get some of the stuff. But yeah, these are like usually a skip, at least for me. All right, last thing I wanted to talk about here is the coin shop item list renewal. So in the shop for coveted coins, we have Mui Elvira, who's actually pretty good right now because of Lady of the Scales, and Lulika, whatever. And then the Galaxy shop rotation for this month is Empyrean Elanav, Twisted Eidolon, Kairon, and Mediator Coeric. And I would say, if you have 40 Galaxy coins and you do not have Empyrean Elanav, please, please buy an Empyrean Elanav. I was talking to a player the other night who is like, I want to say like not new, but like relatively new in the grand scheme of things. And they were talking about how they just got New Moon Luna and Empyrean Elanav. And I was like, wow, that's really good for you because those feel like the two characters that you kind of can't really play PvP without. Like the current state of Epic 7 really wants you to have Luna to be able to punish passives and really needs you to have Empyrean Elanav to survive a lot of bull, like a lot of BS in this game. So if you are somebody without this character, please buy Empyrean Elanav for 40 coins. She really is that important. Twisted Eidolon Kairon is actually also very good as well. He's actually decent in the current state of the game. He's a very strong 4-5 pick. Previously, I thought he was pretty bad, but surprisingly, with all the evasion that is currently in the game, he is pretty much a, well, if you're going to just try to tank out with evasion, I'm just going to play Kairon instead, and I'm just going to flip it back on you. Like, hey, you're trying to annoy me with these evasion characters that I can't kill. Well, here's a Kairon that you also can't kill, and if he ever gets full fighting spirit, you're dead. That's it. We're done here. You just lose the game. So it puts them on a clock instead of, you know, them trying to put you on a clock. So he's very good. And then Coeric is always just a solid character. Now, the main thing that I want to talk about here is this 5-star Moonlight Hero Selector. This was the thing that was promised during the 7th anniversary stream. And I'm sorry to say, Mr. Director, but this is kind of a disappointment. Like, they were talking about how they felt it was time to overhaul the Galaxy coin shop to make it easier for players to get the characters that they want, right? That was the big thing that we stressed during that stream. Yeah, this is a big old swing and a miss, in my opinion. So as you can see here, 5-star Moonlight Heroes released after Eternal Wanderer Ludwig and Collaboration 5-star Moonlight Heroes, so basically Einzelgone, are not included in the 5-star Moonlight Heroes selector. So, in case you are not keeping track, Eternal Wanderer Ludwig came out in the first week of 2023. That means that the vast majority of the meta characters are not in this selector. So that means, you know, no Hellion Lua, no Successor Teiyu, no Pera, no Luna, no Harseti, no Bystander Huayong, no Witch of the Mare, right? No Lady of the Scales, no Boss Arunca, right? Just think of the characters that we commonly play. They're not in this selector. The best things you could take from the selector are like cleave units, effectively. It's Ludwig, Requiem Rowana, Pirate Captain Flan, Silverblade Araminta, and then I guess Desert Jewel Bazaar, right? And then Judge Kisei. So like the only things you could take from this selector are like cleave units. You can't get Empyrean Elanav, which is like a character that everyone needs. I just stressed how important that is. You can't get that character. It kind of sucks. So my advice, unless you're just like a whale with like 200 plus coins, don't buy this. It's actually a scam. They really need to change this. This needs to be basically up to Harseti. They need to change it so it's up to Harseti. Because I don't know if anybody's been keeping track, but Harseti's about to be 13 months old in like a week. Right? Where Harseti's been out for a minute. Luna is like going on 15, 16 months old at this point. Like some of these like staple characters, Ilanav is like 13, 14 months old at this point. These staple characters need to be in this selector. I think it is fair to charge double for a selector to get the thing that you want, as opposed to whatever the current rotation is. But holy, this is not nearly good enough. The characters that are actually important to play in PvP right now are all characters that came out in the last 15 months, give or take. And for you to put out a selector that's only like, oh, you can only choose characters that are like 20 months older or older is like insane to me. I don't understand why they did it this way. But yeah, after that, you know, changes to Hall of Trials, draft mode, fix some errors, yada, yada, yada. You get the whole shebang. Anyways, those are my thoughts on everything that are here in this patch overview for the week. Let me know down in the comment section below what you're excited for the Frieren collab and what you think about Astral Forge, the exclusive equipments, the buffs that are coming, right? Little Queen Charlotte, I'm pretty stoked for that. Finally be able to get to play her again. So yeah, I'd love to hear any and all your thoughts about this patch down in the comments below. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.